breath, that same voice echoes through the air again. It congratulates them on clearing stage 1 of the tutorial, which is the first of a total of 8 stages. At the same time, the notification informs them they've leveled up. They've temporarily awakened their powers, which will fully awaken when the tutorial is over. Kang don't pay much attention to this notification, though. Kang just lies there, lets out a sigh of relief, and says he can't even move a finger anymore. But Juhi, she was reading that system notification real serious, curiosity written all over her face. But Kang shouted, "Forget all that. You're not even gonna thank me for saving your life?" Juhi casually muttered a thank you, but Kang couldn't help but feel a little confused. Just a casual thank you, really? Juhi, on the other hand, was confused. What the heck is this temporarily awakened status window? In front of her was her status window. Her level was 1, her strength was 7, agility 12, vitality 6, magic power 13. But the most interesting part? Her skill was calm, which explained why she was so calm in this crazy situation. But when Kang heard the word system window, he lit up. Is this the same system window I'm thinking about? Even though he was dead tired, he somehow managed to open his system window, and boy, oh boy, his skill was resurrection. But before he could really check it out, he woke up screaming, drenched in sweat. He sat there silently for a while, taking it all in, realizing he was back in his room. It was morning. Was that really a dream, he thought? Was it? After a while, it's revealed that this strange news has spread all over the world. Almost half the population had the same dream, being on top of a lava bridge and having to complete some fixed level. The whole world's in chaos, but there's one thing in common. Every single person who had the dream was between 18 and 40 years old. After a while, Juhi comes bursting into Kang's room, screaming her head off. Both of them, nervously and in a panic, start babbling about what had happened. Kang, barely catching his breath, starts firing off questions. Juhi had appeared in his dream. He almost died. And what about that status window? Juhi, just as flustered, starts asking her own questions. They begin arguing. Juhi was almost going to die, and Kang had saved her life. They go on and on about how realistic it all was, talking so fast that neither of them can understand a word the other is saying. Juhi finally gets fed up and screams, "At least let me speak first." Kang, already riled up, snaps back, saying that Juhi is the one interrupting. "Let me speak first!" Well, it's just typical brother-sister bickering. They keep going at it until they both give up and retreat to opposite corners of the room. After a while, their stomachs start growling with hunger. They decide to eat first and then sort everything out. While they're eating, the internet is going nuts. Everyone's talking about the end of the world, realistic dreams, shared dreams, apocalypse theories, you name it. The two of them sit down to eat, and finally, they manage to talk to each other without all the yelling. They start to realize that what they experienced wasn't just a dream. They had actually met and talked to each other, for real. It wasn't just something happening in their country either. Seems like people all over the world had the same dream. But Kang reads some strange news. Apparently, people who died in that dream didn't actually die in real life. According to the reports, 4 out of 10 people died in the dream, but nothing happened to them in reality. But Juhi wasn't so sure. She says that even though they didn't die, the experience was so realistic that if they had fallen into the lava, the feeling of dying would have been so intense it could have ruined their lives. Juhi even read online that the people who died in that dream ended up admitted to mental hospitals. They were so traumatized. They continue eating in silence. But then there's a loud noise outside. Kang goes to check it out, and what he sees is pure chaos. People have gone mad. They're stealing food, some are carrying God's posters and marching down the streets, and others are convinced the world is ending. Thieves and robbers are going wild, looting everything in sight. The world is in shambles. Juhi knows she can't go to work like this, and Kang, well, there's no way he's going out to look for a job. Inside, Kang is actually kinda happy. Finally, he doesn't have to worry about finding a job. He even starts thinking maybe the world really is going to end. Then Kang asks Juhi if she's tried opening her status window in the real world. Juhi shakes her head and says no. But when she does open it, there's a message that reads, "In 4 years, 364 days, 17 hours, 3 minutes, and 13 seconds, a disaster will strike. A disaster that will end the world." Hearing this, Juhi starts panicking and asks, "What do we do now?" But Kang just shrugs and says, "The world's gonna end in 5 years, what's the point of stressing about it now? Better to stay home and figure out what's going on with this tutorial guy." Juhi thinks for once Kang's actually making some sense. Meanwhile, the world slowly begins to calm down. The police start catching the thieves, and people begin to return to some sense of normalcy. Night falls, and everyone goes to sleep. Kang drifts off as well, but as soon as he closes his eyes, that same voice welcomes him back. The voice asks if he'd like to see the explanation and instructions for basic interference. Kang, already annoyed, says, "Skip all this and just show me my status window." The system complies, showing him his status window. Kang's still at level 1. His strength is 8, agility 9, stamina 8, magic power 14, and his unique ability is resurrection. Kang doesn't know if his stats are any good because he's only seen his own. The only thing that stands out is his magic power, which is higher than the other stats. He figures he's probably going to be good at magic, but when he checks his unique ability, resurrection, he gets shocked. He smirks and says, "This smells like an overpowered cheat ability." Kang checks the details of his resurrection ability. It says his resurrection rank is Z. After 24 hours of his death, he can come back to life. If the resurrection location isn't specified, it will take place at the last sleeping location. But there's a penalty. Kang's level will decrease by 1, and all his abilities will be reduced by 50% for 24 hours. However, in the tutorial, the resurrection penalty doesn't apply. Kang can't contain himself. He starts dancing around. He's got a god-level cheat ability. He thinks to himself, "Finally, I'm going to be able to get out of this pathetic loser life." But he had no idea what was going to happen to him. The scene shifts, and we see Kang wielding a big hammer, trying to fight an ugly goblin. He's swinging with all his might, trying to take down the goblin, but the goblin dodges his attacks easily. The objective of the second stage is to kill all the goblins, but Kang isn't able to take down even one. After struggling in front of the goblin for some time, he finally kills it, but the only reason he managed it was because he launched a surprise attack first. Goblin blood was pouring from its head, and Kang's hand was shaking. His whole body was covered in that disgusting blood, and Kang can't believe it. He's actually killed someone for real. The sight of it makes Kang feel like vomiting. He turns away, walking slowly, but he doesn't realize someone is waiting for him. A damn perverted goblin was stalking Kang, watching him with a drooling mouth. Kang got shocked to see the goblin in front of him. This goblin isn't like the others. His name is Goblin Millet, and he's big, thick, and juicy, ready for some action. He's got a 2-meter-long weapon ready to insert into Kang's body, a meat chopper in his hand. Seeing this, Kang is terrified. He was already struggling to beat a small goblin like a chicken leg piece. How's he gonna take down this monster? In fact, when Kang noticed that 2-meter thing, he got terrified, thinking, "No matter what, I don't want that thing inside me." But the thick guy had something different planned. He suddenly started laughing maniacally, saliva drooling from his mouth like he was going to suck Kang dry. The thick goblin immediately spun his meat chopper, and Kang tried to block it. But with a body chronically lacking exercise due to long-term unemployment and armed with only a 70-centimeter-long weapon, there was no way Kang could stop him. Kang started crying. The goblin easily disarmed Kang, throwing his small weapon away in a single blow. But the thick goblin didn't kill Kang right away. Oh no. He started playing with Kang's body slowly, taking his time, slowly ripping body parts one by one, and God knows what else he did to Kang. Ew, I don't even want to think about it. Now Kang was almost half dead, crying with tears in his eyes. He could barely keep his eyes open, his body covered in blood, as the goblin dragged him away, holding him by the neck. The goblin was laughing at Kang, who couldn't understand what was happening to him. "Why do I have to go through this?" he thought. The pain in his body was unbearable, like he was in hell. Kang was left wondering why the goblin wasn't just letting him die. All he could do was wish that he would wake up from this nightmare as soon as possible. But Kang's suffering didn't end there. That day, he realized just how much blood a human body can hold. That thick and juicy goblin? After having his twisted fun with Kang, he dragged him for hours, holding him by the collar, taking him who knows where. And for all those hours, Kang endured unimaginable pain, unbearable, hellish suffering. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the goblin hauled him in front of 3 more goblins, and then all 4 of them had their way with him. Kang's death came from blood loss and intense torture. He woke up in his bed screaming like a madman. Hearing his screams, Kang's sister Juhi woke up. She was angry, annoyed, and frustrated. She burst into his room with a loud bang, scolding him. "What is this crap happening again so early in the morning? Why are you screaming like a madman at 4 a.m.? And to top it off, Juhi's head was aching, and Kang wasn't letting her get any sleep. But when Juhi noticed Kang, poor Kang, curled up in the corner of his bed,